Hi, this is Bishop James Dixon at the Community of Faith Church in Houston, Texas. I want to welcome you to another conversation with an amazing woman of impact. We are continuing the celebration of Black History Month and also celebrating National Women's History Month. And today I'm honored to bring you into a conversation with an amazing woman. Her name is Miss Melanie Lawson. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, Bishop, I'm thrilled and I'm honored that you wanted to interview me, and I'm even more excited that it's you doing the interview.
Well, I tell you, I'm excited and nervous at the same time. I mean,
Don't be nervous.
I'm interviewing the consummate professional who does this better than any. How did you discover what your passion was so that you could pursue your own focus in terms of education and profession?
Well, I think I was lucky enough to kind of stumble into it sometimes. I don't know that I was as directed as you imply there, but I was fortunate enough to get a great education, to be encouraged by my parents to go off to college. And what does that mean? Yeah, no, but they did. Instead of saying, no, you have to go to school right next door or down the street or something, they actually encouraged me to go where I wanted to go. And I ended up going to an Ivy League institution in Princeton in New Jersey, which was an extraordinary education.
What was it like to be a Lawson kid and to be Melanie then?
Well, you know what it's like to be a PK, to be a preacher's kid, or preacher's grandkid in this case. In our case, I guess we got to see the church being born because my parents opted to start a church when they had only 13 members who were friends and family. And so they would meet in our living room downstairs on a Sunday morning, and we had no idea what all that noise was about or anything like that, but most of them had kids, so they would come over and bring the kids. And even from the beginning, we had what amounted to a children's church. You know, one or more of the mothers would get together with us and sort of teach us Bible songs and the like.
How do you think you were impacted growing up in a home where you were observing that and listening to those types of conversations and content, substantive conversations? I know you had a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
But how do you think that impacted you?
Well, I think it clearly has everything to do with what I ended up doing in life. Because we would sit at the dinner table and Daddy would ask, you know, have you read the paper today? You know, he'd watch the news. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? As I got older, I began to realize a lot of what was going on in the civil rights movement. And there were times when we would have people like Dr. Martin Luther King in our home, or Jesse Jackson, or Andrew Young, so many people who were involved in the movement. And it was hard not to be interested in that or to know something about it. The fact that both of my parents were readers, both of my parents were writers, meant that that was not something that you could ignore. I couldn't spend all my time watching TV by any stretch of the imagination. And I just think there was a natural development there.
Yes.
A continuing interest and recognition about what was going on in the world.
But what drives Melanie? What's the passion?
You know what? For such a long time, I felt as though our stories weren't being told, and they weren't being properly told in a lot of cases. That it's easy to do a drive-by in a neighborhood, or, you know, to talk to somebody today about, you know, a shooting or a fire or whatever. But there's some neighborhoods where the roots are deep, the stories are strong, and yet they're not being told. So I felt as though my mission was to represent, you know, people who grew up in this city, people who love this city, but whose voices were not always heard.
What I've really discerned is your parents started a church and that became their pulpit. You went into journalism and that became your pulpit. Thank you for ministering to us for all those years from that faithful pulpit.
Well, thank you so much, and I love that. That's a perfect wrap up for a good preacher.
I'm so amazed, but thank you for the time and thank you for your accessibility and availability. This has been one of the highlights of my life. And
my goodness.
I won't forget that.
My goodness.
Listen, stay tuned because the following conversations with Melanie Lawson and with, of course, Judge Minister Gilmore and Carol Galloway and others, these women of impact are doing things and have done things that are making the life lives better for people who never get to meet them. I'm just glad to know you. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Bishop. This was great.
God bless. Thank you all.